And now I'll call Chief Wayne Mueller up to give the report on the other items 2 through 4 under E.
Chairman, Commissioners, good morning. Wayne Mueller, Chief Regulatory Services Division. Items E2, 3, and 4 all impact the compassionate use program, and all of these changes are based on statutory mandate. The legislature made significant changes to the compassionate use program this last legislative session, and these 3 items are in response to some legislative mandates. Item E2 puts some timeframes in place having to do with application intake. Time frame for us to open a window for a new application, to consider a new licensee, time frame by which we must consider such applications, and then let an applicant know that they have been either awarded or denied a license, as well as some language adjustment as far as who within an application must have background check. I need to emphasize for this section E2, there was a lot in House Bill 46. That they were doing at the same time. This language here for the timeframes have to do with any application intake for licensees prospectively going forward into the future. And I'm about to launch into the next section all about the expansion process that is also in House Bill 46. The timeframes that we are putting here in these proposed rules will not apply to the expansion we're about to do. House Bill 46 sets forth timeframes for this expansion, and they're quite frankly very tight timeframes. As well as arguably this expansion process started 2 years ago. And so these proposed rules, which at best would be adopted by the commission October 15th, we would simply not be able to utilize these for the expansion. So I want to make sure those listening are clear. These are proposed rules for adding applicants and what that process would look like prospectively, but they will not apply to the expansion process that we're about to discuss. Item 3, also touching on the compassionate use program, is something that we've talked about in the past, especially with Chairman Mock, the concept of needing ongoing operations by any licensee. These rules discuss that a new licensee must ramp up operations and be able to fulfill prescriptions within a 24-month period, and after that, they must have continuous operations. As you're aware, we had a situation a couple of years ago where one of the licensees, they had operational issues. They came down to where I believe it was they filled 1 prescription in like an 18-month period. I sent to them what was essentially a notice to cure. To their credit, they got their operational issues solved and they're back and running as they should. But as a lesson learned from that, we need to have some teeth into, if you do not continue operations, your license is at risk, including potentially suspension or revocation. Legislature weighed in this last session and put some language specifically regarding that into place statutorily, and these rules help flesh that out. And then item E4 has to do with satellite locations, which again I will touch on here again in a moment. Satellite location is a location other than their cultivation center, other than where they do all their seed to packaging of the product. This is just a place to store and dispense to patients at local areas. The legislature required that we put language in place that has to do with the security aspect of those satellite locations for protection of the product, and that's what these do. And so at this time, Chairman, I would request approval to place items E2, 3, and 4 in the Texas Register for the requisite public comment period. Be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Is there a motion?
I'll move.
I'll second.
I will. Commissioner Blair made the motion. Commissioner Long seconded the motion to publish the rule proposals in the Texas Register to receive public comment, items E2 through 4 as printed on today's agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you. I'll just keep you right there. Before we go on to ongoing business, I want to recognize our special guests here today. We have Scott McNaughton from the Office of Governor Greg Abbott, Suzanne Tomlin from the Office of Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, Shelby Sterling from the Office of Senator Brian Birdwell, and Megan Mueller from the Office of the Lieutenant Governor. Thank you all for being here. And if I missed anybody, I'm sorry, but we do appreciate y'all being part of these meetings, and thank you for being here. Item 9, ongoing business. Item A, Texas Compassionate Use Program Teacup update. Chief Wayne Mueller.
Thank you, Chairman. Again, Wayne Mueller, Chief Regulatory Services Division. And this action item will be a request for approval of implementation of our plan to be in compliance with House Bill 46. As you may recall, during the 2023 session, intermittently, I've come before this commission and we discussed various aspects of this program, in particular, expansion of the program. You may also recall that at one point we contracted with a consultant firm to try and give us a fresh set of eyes, all on the point of expansion, looking at the patient count, when expansion might make sense. We discussed that heavily through the 2023 session. We opened up an application window in that time frame with the anticipation of the legislature maybe weighing in during that session. As we know, they did not. Fast forward, though, to the 2025 regular session, and again, through House Bill 46, the legislature has made significant changes, including specific information to guide us now on expansion of the compassionate use program. And I'm going to apologize up front. I'm going to go into quite a bit of detail on this, more so than maybe I normally would at a commission meeting. But the reality of the matter is we've received a lot of questions about this. We've gotten a lot of opinions about this. And to be perfectly frank, we've had at least some what I would describe as attempts at undue influence on which direction we need to go with this. So I think it is very important, not so much for the commission, but for those listening that are interested in this program statewide and actually nationally as well, for me to lay out as much detail as possible what our plan is and how we're going to do that. So if you'll bear with me, I'm going to walk through that a little bit. So the legislature, again, one minute, please. Thank you. So the four main components that the legislature put in place under House Bill 46 as it relates to the expansion was first the number. There's been conversation in the past. We have 3 current licensees. Should we have more? And if so, how many more? The legislature has now said this program is to have 15 licensees. And so we need to add 12 to this program in order to get to that 15 number. They've also said how to arrive at that number. They have specifically stated that this should be a competitive selection process, that we need to compare all of these applications against each other and do a scoring process and thus a ranking so we can determine who those 12 are going to be. They've also added language to indicate where. There's language that I view as having refined our current admonishment from the legislature, which is to ensure statewide coverage. The language is now refined that we have an obligation to issue and renew licenses in a manner that ensures that there's access to this product, this medicine, in each health region. And I'll talk about the health regions more in a bit. And then lastly, the legislature has stated by when. House Bill 46 contemplates a 2-phase process where we have the first major deadline is by December 1st of this year to add licensees to this program, or at least give the conditional approval so they can begin standing up operations. And so with those 4 guideposts for this expansion process, so what is our plan going to be? Next slide, please. So step 1, we've already started. Back on July 15th, I sent a letter to what I'm going to refer to as the phase 1 applicants. Those are the applicants that put an application 2 years ago during the 2023 legislative session, 139 of them. Sent a letter indicating to them that we're preparing for expansion and what that might look like. And then also a recognition that it has been 2 years, and for some of them, interest in this program may have changed. And so we have given them an opportunity intentionally past today so that they can make an informed decision up to next week, August 15th, that if they proactively let us know that they would like to withdraw their application from 2 years ago, we will then seek to refund the application fee. It's $7,300 or so. If they wish to withdraw and receive a refund on that, we will do so. That time frame is, again, August 15th. If we receive silence, our expectation is that then they still want to be in the process and we will continue forward with them. But that will be step 1. Step 2 then is...
Chief, may I interrupt? And is it to be understood that if they remain in the process and do not seek a refund, then their deposit becomes, or their application fee becomes non-refundable?
Yes, Chairman, that would be correct. It would be we're not taking action to consider their application, and that the August 15th deadline. After that, their application is under consideration. So at that point, there would not be the opportunity for a refund.
Thank you. Sorry for the interruption.
Oh, no, sir. No problem. So then step two will then be a dual application window, phase one and phase two. The slide says August 7th. It will begin tomorrow, August 8th, where information will be available on our website so that everybody can see what the information is and how they're going to need to go about participating potentially in this expansion process. August 8th to September 15th for phase one will be allowing the current applicants, again, phase one, the 139 from 2 years ago, to be able to supplement their applications and add information. At the same time, the same window will be open for new applications, phase two. Anyone who is interested in coming into the program, they will be able to add a application in at this time with a September 15th, 5 p.m. deadline. Now, within that, there are some sub pieces that I want to highlight. First of all, starting tomorrow, all this information will be on our website for people to see. System limitations dictate that even though our expectations that they can see what they need to put in, they'll have the first week to be able to gather all their information or however long they need, but it will be beginning August 15th that they can then upload electronically their information to us. So they will essentially have a 1 month window to be able to put in application. Second point I need to make is that for the phase one applicants, the reason why we are opening it up for a supplemental window is that we are asking for some additional information that we did not ask for 2 years ago. Most of that language, or most of what we are asking for, goes to the financial stability of the applicants. It ties into the rules that I just put before you about the expectation from the legislature of being able to stand up an operation as well as being able to have ongoing operations. I'll again emphasize, this is seed to sale. This is not like the hemp program where you can wholesale buy and put some sort of product on the shelf. This is the medicinal program for the state. You do everything from cultivation to manufacture to testing all the way to product. This is a significant outlay of investment for this type of operation to stand up. And so knowing what their financial stability looks like is important. Secondly, we have some additional declarations that we need that first group to do. We intentionally did not look at those applications 2 years ago. At that time, we were uncertain what the legislature was going to do, and we were trying to gauge whether expansion would happen or not. Quite frankly, even at the end of that process, we had a couple of allegations that favoritism, that we were extending the time frame for some to get extra information in. That was absolutely untrue. We were very clear on what the process was, but because it was a 3-step process, for some reason, some thought that that third step meant we were giving somebody an extension. That was not the case at all. But for those reasons, we need to make sure that we have clarity across the board and how all of this is going to work. One of those declarations, now that we are looking at the applications, because the legislature now in 25 has set a competitive selection process, is we found at least one instance to where a physician who is able to prescribe under the compassionate use program is involved or has their name involved with one of the applications. Well, similar to the pharmaceutical industry, you can't be on both sides of it. We can't have somebody involved with the writing of prescriptions on the one side and then involved with the dispensing of the prescriptions on the other side. And so for an application like that, they're going to need to make a decision, either divest themselves of the application or no longer be a physician. So that is one of the declarations that will need to be made. The second declaration I view is even more important, which is the no double dipping. We found at least a couple instances where the ownership interest group, which can be convoluted in some of these applications, we could have not just a sole proprietor or a partnership, but an LLC with multiple ownership interests. And then part of that ownership interest could be an LLC above that. And so the ownership interests are tricky. We found at least a couple of instances where we may have ownership interest in one application and then same ownership interest or similar ownership interest in another application. For a multitude of reasons of why we need to keep this process above board, have a lot of integrity with it, make sure that we're consistent and everybody is having as equal an opportunity as possible. We're trying to prevent that type of double dipping. And so the two declarations will be that there's no physician involvement in an application. And then the second declaration is that there is no ownership interest in any other application in phase one or in the phase two applications as well. Again, so that we're clear, there's a lot of moving parts to what we're about to engage in, and our manpower is limited. We're imploring people to do this right as far as their putting in of their applications. If we find something like that, we really do not have the time with the short timeframes the legislature expects to go back and forth and back and forth. If we find something like that, we're simply going to find those applications as rejected because of that conflict. And so again, I'm imploring those listening, get your application right, get your application with your shot and your best argument as to why you should be selected, and go with that. If we find that somebody is involved with multiple applications, we will have to take that sort of action. And then lastly, I would admonish, and we saw this last time as well, please do not procrastinate with your applications. September 15th, 5 p.m., close of business is when the window will close. Just like last time, someone tries at 4:50 to get their information in, and now they're having internet connectivity issues, and now procrastination on their part has become an emergency on the part of my staff. We will not have time for that. And so if you don't make it on time, your application will not be considered. Again, and then lastly, and I again apologize, I know lots of detail, but there's a lot of moving parts here. Lastly, I need the first phase applicants to understand that this is not an opportunity to rewrite their application from 2 years ago. The opening of the window is so that we can get the additional information, as I've described, that we need. Certainly, there may be some reasonable reasons if hypothetically it was a 4-person partnership on the last application, and God forbid one of the partners has passed away since then, well, then that is something that reasonably needs to be changed. On the other end of the spectrum, if it's a new LLC of ownership, well, that is an entirely different ownership setup, and that should be a new application. If we find something like that, that's not going to be accepted in the current application. They would need to look to go to phase 2 if that's what they want to do. Yes, that's going to have to be subjective on the part of our staff to determine whether something looks reasonable or not. And so I want to make sure, again, the phase 1 applicants understand if you have reasonable information that needs to be updated, that's fine. But trying to substitute whole sections of what you applied with last time, that we will not be able to accept. So August 8th through September 15th will be dual windows to take in supplemental information from the phase 1 as well as new applications from the phase 2 individuals. Why is this important? Because House Bill 46 dictates that of the 12 expansion licensees, the first 9 must come from applications that we've received prior to July 2025. In other words, those applications from 2 years ago. We have to take the first 9 from that. It then says that we have the option of the last 3 of the expanded 12 to take from applications received anytime. And so that's why we are doing the dual and trying to create a balance of legislature and statute says we have to prioritize that first group for the 9, but still give others an opportunity to compete for the last 3, which is why we're doing both sides of it. So with that window closing on September 15th and having taken in both phase 1 and phase 2, the next step will be we'll have to sort out all of this information in some sort of cohesive way. And then at that point, our selection committee will begin the process of scoring and thus ranking the phase 1 group first to find the 9 that will be announced. It will be a 9-person committee made up of department employees, and that's as much as I'm going to say on that. Hopefully for obvious reasons, I'm not going to put out more than that information because these people are going to have a lot of work to do, and we don't need them having to have distractions on top of that. They are going to have a set selection criteria. We have basically 4 groups of information of the criteria and how it is weighted. Again, part of what we're going to have up on the website starting tomorrow, that score sheet will be included. So everybody in both phase 1 and 2 can see how the scoring process is going to occur. As this is a case in first impression, we don't know exactly how long it'll take the group to go through 139 or so applications. We're looking at about a 45-day window, and I'm giving us some cushion there in November for just in case and unknowns. But we will hold fast to the December 1st deadline, which is in House Bill 46. Presumably through a press release on December 1st, we will announce who those 9 licensees are that have been conditionally approved based on ranking 1 through 9. Another component then what will happen is the assignment of the health region, which is also part of the information that we are supplementally asking them for, which is for them to rank their health region preferences. Go to the next slide, please. And so this is the health region that I'm talking about, the health regions I'm talking about. So the legislature in House Bill 46 specifically invokes HHSC's health region. As you see, it looks a bit different than the DPS regional structure, but very importantly, the legislature has said we have a duty as the regulator to make sure there is coverage in each of these health regions, which is why I'm belaboring this point a bit. So each licensee will be assigned a health region. But and this is where the satellite location component of it comes in. In order to make sure we do have flexibility and try and balance between our requirements as regulator as well as them as a business and trying to do what they need to do to run a successful business. Once they are assigned a health region, they will have the option of either standing up their cultivation center where they do everything from seed to packaging, or they can stand up one of their satellite locations or their satellite location in that region. The point being that they are going to have a responsibility for activity in that region. Now that it's not territorial, they're not limited to that, and I'll discuss that at the end. But they will have, as a licensee in this program, a responsibility for ensuring that there's at least base level of coverage and accessibility for the patients in that region. So they will have the option to do either, and in which they do will move from the expansion process into the day-to-day operations, and our CUP employees will discuss with those that have been given a conditional approval, conditional license, exactly where they're going to stand up their operations. But that will be the first piece, and that will happen on December 1st. However long it takes for the selection committee to first select these 9, and what they will do actually is rank all of them, but rank importantly 1 through 12. As soon as they are done with ranking the first phase, they will then move immediately into the ranking of the second phase, even if that's sometime before December 1st. We have the obligation of April 1st of 26 to name the second 3. What we will do is we will announce the first 9, and then the next 3, numbers 10, 11, and 12 is ranked, will then move into the pool from phase 1 and then be in competition in phase 2. The reason why that is, we're trying very hard to have consistency in the scoring process with the scoring criteria. The selection committee will be the same individuals, and therefore what they have scored for 10, 11, and 12 will be the benchmark. It will then be those that they are looking at in the phase 2 applications to then, they will need to try and beat essentially those 3 that are 10, 11, 12 and score higher them to be able to get one of the 3 slots. So that, and we simply don't know how many applications we're going to receive. If theoretically, and I don't believe this is the case at all, if we were to receive no applications in that phase 2, well then 10, 11, and 12 will become the additional 3 that we will issue the licenses for. I suspect the other, which is we will probably see a decent number of applications that come in. Because of that, I do not know how long it will take between whenever they finish with phase 1 and start phase 2 up to April 1st. I cannot say how long it'll take for them to get through that process. Unlike the December 1st, which we're going to hold fast to, if for some reason they're able to move along quickly, we will go ahead and announce that whenever we know the next 3. Since these 3 will be arguably a little bit behind the other 9 in getting started, if we're able to announce by February 1 or March 1, we will do so. But we simply don't know. And this is the part that admittedly is a bit squishy, but I think it's just a reality. Senator Perry and others, we have all seen what went on with the hemp issue during the regular session, and they're still discussing that and debating it during special session. And every single time that comes up, they invoke the compassionate use program. The legislature has a very strong belief that the compassionate use program is at least a partial solution to what is happening with what's going on with what they want to change as far as the hemp program is concerned, and the potential for banning the THC consumable portion of hemp. There's a belief then that potentially we could see a lot of applications that come in the second window. We have to have a way to manage that. And so with that, if we receive a significant number of applications, and I cannot define significant number at this time, but if we receive a significant number of applications, we are going to have to find a way to tier them. We're going to have to find a way to cull that down to a manageable number for the selection committee to then be able to do that second phase scoring and ranking. Again, that's difficult, I understand, but we're dealing with unknowns at this point. We do not know how many we'll get. So we're going to have at least a little room to pivot if we find that we have an insurmountable number that we need to figure out a plan to deal with. Assuming though that all that goes well, the selection committee will finish the scoring and ranking of the last three, and what they will do is actually rank 6. They will rank 3. That will be the last 3 slots that are given a conditional approval for a license, and then there will be 3 more that will become an eligibility list. House Bill 46 indicates again that upon receiving notice from us of conditional approval, the licensee has 24 months to stand up their cultivation center and make everything operational. If hypothetically we get into month 15 and one of them has a financial catastrophe that they cannot recover from, we want to have the ability to potentially pivot rather quickly, thus having a 3 applicant eligibility list that will be good for 24 months. And so with that, we go to the next slide, please. Just a little bit of visual of where we are today versus what all of this and all those words about expansion will potentially get us to. So this is current state, our 3 current licensees. As you can see, they are all in Region 7. Going back to the health region component just a little bit, what we will do as far as this process, there will be no assignment of licensees in Region 7 since all 3, the original 3 are already there. We will have 2 slots available in Region 7, there will be no assignment. In Region 3, there will be 2 slots. In Region 6, 2 slots for obvious reasons with the population, and then 1 slot in each of the other regions. I'll also note that the map is a little bit wrong. Region 5 is broken into 2 by HHSC. That's 1 region. Region 5 will be treated as 1 region for purposes of this. Next slide, please. And so then, and again, it'll be up to the licensees to determine whether their cultivation center or whether a satellite location is what they choose to put in the region that they are assigned in. But this is just at least, yes, sir.
Are you missing one from 6?
Yes, the one that's in 5S, pretend that's one's in 6 for a minute. So yes, apologies. And so again, the green dot just is to give a little bit of a visual of how, because this was a message that was crystal clear from the legislature, we need to create more spread of this program across the state so there is better local access for the patients. That was a theme over and over again. Senator Perry told me that personally, that's something that is of paramount importance. And so this starts us down that path of making sure we've got better statewide coverage. Next slide, please. And I apologize. I know it looks like the state has chickenpox in this. This slide is 100% my fault, and my staff would tell you this slide is 100% my fault. Although crude, though, the point I'm trying to make visually is that, again, this is the satellite locations, which is another part of House Bill 46. This is something the current licensees have been asking for continuously, and we've been talking with them for over 2 years about this. The legislature has authorized this. Again, it's simply a location where they can overnight store their product and then dispense to patients, a mini CVS or Walgreens, if you need a visual for that. Nothing else, no other operations will happen there as far as growth, cultivation, manufacturing of the product. That all happens at their central location. And again, while it is important to us as regulators and what has been now the legislative mandate to make sure we at least have minimal coverage in each health region, we do expect that from a competition and seeking of market share standpoint, they're going to want to put satellite locations in as many places as they can. There is one more nuance within House Bill 46. The legislature has said that, and I'll use a hypothetical, if the licensee that is assigned Region 10 decides to put their cultivation center near El Paso, and that's all they choose to do, the way the bill is written, that's perfectly fine. If they choose to do that and then put a satellite location, one in Dallas, one in Houston, and one in San Antonio, that also is perfectly fine under House Bill 46. But if in addition to having their satellite location in Harris County, they want to put a second one in Galveston County because of the population, before they can put a second satellite location in a health region, they must have a satellite location operational in each health region. Again, it's that same message from the legislature about wanting to ensure better local access for the patients. And so there is more likely the potential that as we go into the next 2 years of this program and they get to operational and they start setting their satellite locations, which we will approve the location and make sure everything is copacetic with it, we could see at least 15 satellite locations in each region because they want to make sure they have more than one in the population dense areas, the population triangle. And because they are required then by statute to be everywhere, we could see something more akin to that. So again, I know a crude representation, but to give the visual that the expectation of the legislature to get much more coverage of the state through this expansion, that is what we're trying to accomplish here with these changes. Lastly, Chairman, I would just want to say, so me droning on for the last 20 minutes is a culmination of my staff working very hard for multiple weeks on this, trying to take in as much information as possible, discussing and debating, well, we've heard about this perspective, we've heard about that perspective, this point, this counterpoint. They've constantly tried to pivot and adjust to where we have a plan here. There's certainly something for everyone to hate in this plan. And I know that that's going to be the case. There's going to be criticism, but trying to create a plan that first, of course, meets the instructions of House Bill 46, but then trying to be as inclusive as possible and make sure that we're allowing something that is balanced, that makes sense for the state has been a primary directive of what we've tried to do. My staff have done a tremendous job of trying to get us there, and I think that they have. So I thank them very much for all their work over the last several weeks to try and get us there. And with that, Chairman, I'm sure I missed something important. And again, I apologize for such detail, but again, I'm talking more so to those out there that have expressed extreme interest in this. This is what our plan looks like. There will be more information to come. In addition to on our website, of course, the phase one applicants, we know who they are. They'll also be getting a letter individual to let them know what steps they need to do. All that information is coming. With that, Chairman, I close. I am asking for the commission to approve this implementation plan. With that, I'd be happy to try and answer questions you may have.
Commissioners?
I have a question. I have a question, Chief. Back on number 1, regarding the 2 phases, the first 9, and then the additional 3. So the first 9, as I understand, are applications that you've already received, but 2 years ago. So you're basically dealing with applications in hand, but they're 2 years old. So I commend you for trying to thread that needle. I can understand, that there's some need for allowing a limited amount of updating. So walk me through what it's going to look like on the website. I mean, I can go look tomorrow, but walk me through. Do me that. So is it a multiple choice? Is it a question and answer? Is it an essay? I mean, how much? I'm an applicant that already had my application on file for 2 years, let's say. How much information can I actually add, or am I just answering DPS questions?
So the supplemental information will go to the additional questions that we're asking in the declarations. But the scoring criteria, which again will be up there, is not, we have added some, which we're asking for that supplemental. Otherwise, it has not changed dramatically from what was there before, and therefore what they applied in the supplemental documentation, the supporting documentation, excuse me, that they provided 2 years ago in order to meet those pieces. The questions that come with the application very much mirror what we are looking for in the scoring criteria.
So there's some additional scoring criteria? Is that what you're saying? And so we're allowing them to provide some information in the event they have additional information that meet those additional scoring criteria?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. The scoring criteria is essentially broken into 4 areas. The first area has to do with infrastructure. It's about laying out for us what their facility plan looks like, not necessarily exactly where the facility is going to be built, but having to do with their need for security and other measures to protect the product. The second grouping has to do with internal accountability, making sure they have a plan for no diversion by their internal employees, making sure they have a waste disposal plan for extra plants that wind up not being part of the product, those type of day-to-day operations. The third portion, which is where most of our questions are going to have to do with the financial stability, what they look like as far as having 2 years worth of viable liquidity to be able to function, what their balance sheet looks like, their Dun & Bradstreet report, those types of things are all part of number 3. And then the last grouping of criteria has to do with their technology, the equipment, the lab apparatus that they use in order to manufacture their product, test it to make sure there's no contaminants, make sure they stay below the THC cap, those types of things. And all that is part of what they would have supplemented their application with 2 years ago as well. It's just the additional components that we're asking for.
Okay, so anything that's changed, in other words.
Yes, ma'am.
So, and I understand it's going to be a subjective call, and that's going to be tough, but your goal is to literally have updates from the last 2 years and not additional information like a new application.
Yes, ma'am. Correct. If it's a whole rewrite, that's not something we're going to accept. And the balance being that if for some reason they feel so certain that they need to do that, they can file a new application in the phase 2. Now, certainly, as I've described, that limits their competitive edge, if you will. They're going to be one of the 3 slots out of phase 2 and not one of the 9,
right,
but they do have that avenue.
Okay, and when that decision's made, if one comes through that your team deems is more excessive than an update, how will you handle that?
We will have to sort through that. We'll have to figure out how we're
fair
going to.
enough. Okay, thank you.
Just to confirm, in case anybody's alarmed, Commissioner Blair does not have an application.
I don't have an application in, and I'm not connected with any application.
Any other commissioners have questions? If not, then I will entertain a motion to approve the implementation plan for the compassionate use program with the House Bill 46.
46.
Yes, sir.
That's compliant with House Bill 46.
Also move with the additional assurance that I am not involved in any plan.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Blair and a second from Commissioner Stodchill to improve the implementation plan for the compassionate use program licensing expansion that is compliant with House Bill 46 from the 89th Texas Legislature. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Chief, I just want to echo your comments earlier about you and your staff. You gave your staff credit, and you deserve a tremendous amount of credit as well. They do as well. It's been an interesting experience from the very genesis of this program to where we are today. We appreciate everyone's patience. Those people who have had applications on file, it hasn't been the certain path people would prefer, but hopefully this provides us a good way forward. So thank you, Chief.
Thank you.